Because he's the one that accepted me at the house 20 months ago. And after I served 16 years behind bars, and he got me fresh from the minimum facility. I gotta make a short. In 2007, after a night of drinking alcohol, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be drinking Jägermeisters and peppermint schnapps and all that stuff that make you crazy. But I already knew those things growing up in Puerto Rico, how the rum affected me. And the first thing the alcohol took away from me was the chance to be a normal teenager. That was the first thing that went away. And at the age of 11 or 12, I was already an older guy. I acted like I was 25 or 30 years old. At that time, I used to stab people back and forth. I had this urge every time I used to drink drugs. I did drugs. Wait a minute, no, I didn't. Drinking. I got this urge of poking holes in people's stomach for no reason. And I learned that from watching people over there, the behavior. Growing up as a little kid, that's the only thing I saw. And that's it. That's the same thing that I ended up doing after I tried growing up with the alcohol. And I came to Maine in 1977 at the age of 19. And I worked at the farm for 3 years in South Portland. My uncle went back to Puerto Rico, so I started working on the waterfront. I met a bunch of fishermen. I used to unload the fishing boats. And soon later, I started being a commercial fisherman, which I did for 27 years. It's good money, but when you drink alcohol, the good money doesn't really, you don't use your brains. There's nothing to show for. And a few years later, cocaine showed up in my life just to make things really, really bad and worse financially. We went to alcohol, which went hand by hand with drinking. With doing drugs, cocaine and drinking. And when I was in my 40s, I started experiencing this, this thinking that I knew something was wrong and something was going to get bad. And it did. When I was 48 in 2007, I got in an argument and I stabbed somebody multiple times. I was found guilty of attempted murder, elevated aggravated assault, and like I said before, I was drinking that night Jägermeisters because even just beers, I couldn't handle just beers, but peppermint schnapps, Jägermeisters mix, you name it. And I had a resentment in the back of my head, and I was in an argument at the house, and I was with this lady that I met, and nobody related to my family. So I grabbed a steak knife and I stabbed. One of the knife broke, I grabbed another knife and keep stabbing her. And she didn't die. She lost a lung. And it's a shameful things that we do when under the influence of alcohol. To me, it's a subject very hard to talk about, but in this case like this, Midcoast recovery, to help somebody, they're having problems. If you got resentment and you drink alcohol, sooner or later that's gonna come out. It's like a volcano, it's gonna explode. And it doesn't matter who's there. Lucky there was no guns that night because I don't know what would have happened. Anyway, 26 years apiece for the elevated aggravated assault, 26 years for attempted murder, the wrong as one. So I got sentenced to 26 years, all but 20 suspended. I did 16 years. And make no mistake, I was sober inside. I was offered drugs many times, but it was time for me. The first few years back there, I was really hard because I craved drinking, I craved cocaine, I craved smoking cocaine that I began to do later on. And if I didn't commit this crime, I would have never quit at the age of 48. So it's something that, as bad as it sounds, it helped me. And I stayed sober inside for 16 years until Ian accepted me at the Midcoast Recovery House in Brooklyn, in Brewster Street. Like I was gonna say, I was sober, but I was like a house without a foundation. I couldn't be leaning to the side. I could be falling to the side at any moment. And my plans was coming to the house, and I never went to AA or NA because I didn't believe in those things. But I came to the house, and after a few meetings, it really got to me, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned how alcohol manipulate me to thinking that I was something that I wasn't. And I'm glad that it happened in Puerto Rico, it happened in the late 60s, early 70s. It would have happened if I would do the things that I did there right now, I would have been gone down real quick. Because by then there was no guns in the country where I grew up. Guns started showing up after I left, soon after I left, and everywhere now. Just like the drugs, just like the alcohol in the big cities here in Rockland. It hasn't hit it that hard yet, but it's coming. And we gotta be prepared for that. Anyway, I gotta thank all you guys for being here, for listening. Thank you for listening. And thank you again for Ian, because he accepted me at the house. And I knew that I wasn't a bad person, but under the influence of alcohol, it took away many things from me, including the 16 years behind bars. My daughter was 10 years old when I went in. When I got out, she was 26. We used to have contact anyway. And she used to come visit me with her grandmother. Then after that, years went by. She used to drive up after she bought a car and licensed it. So they told me we'll keep the memory of her alive, and they did. They did. We have a good relationship now. My son wanted me to move in with him. He's 44 years old. He lives in Texas. If I would have been on drugs and alcohol, he'll never ask me to move in with him anyway. You know, because he knew how fucked up I was under the influence of alcohol and doing drugs. Anyway, thank you for having me here, and I just hope I got a lot to tell. And I like to when younger people come to these places, because I like to them to listen. The only regret that I got is that I came over to when I was 64. I wish I would have done it when I was in my 20s, 30s. My life would have been a lot different.